There we go. All right, everyone, here we are. We're going to be talking to Jason Seber in a second. I just need to get him to jump on. Jason. People trying to say hello. Hello, everyone, as you're hopping in. Oh, there we go. We started a live video. Just waiting for Jason Seber, our guest, to hop on here. And we'll start talking about everything that there is to know about conducting. There he is. The man himself! Oh, he froze already.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
How are you doing?
Excellent.
Good.
Thanks for joining us here on Instagram Live, Jason.
Hey, it is my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, you, of course, are the Associate Conductor for the Kansas City Symphony. Everybody knows this. I want to talk about your beginnings just a little bit. Can you tell me, I saw that you were a music education major, is that correct?
Yeah, music and performance, yep.
So when you decided to become a music education major when you went to college, was that because you thought you wanted to be like a band director or like in school? You wanted to be a school teacher? That was kind of your career path at that time?
An orchestra teacher, yeah, absolutely.
Orchestra teacher.
I wanted to teach high school orchestra, and that's what I did for quite a while, actually. 7 years in Ohio and then 5 in Kentucky, in Louisville, Kentucky.
Very cool. And that's actually, I mean, you were conducting high school orchestras that were you a full-time teacher in those settings?
I was more than full-time. I was overtime.
Yeah.
I think any teacher, honestly, is like full-time and a half.
Plus.
Yeah,
I remember when I left high school, they had just cut all of the like full-time band and orchestra programs, so there wasn't any such thing as. But you were teaching mostly in Ohio or Kentucky.
I taught 7 years outside of Cleveland, Ohio, and 5 years in Louisville.
Cool. So, what was the like moment for you before then where you thought, I want to be a conductor? Like, what's the thing that made you think, like, this is what I want to do?
Okay, well, probably, I mean, the first time I actually got to conduct was in junior high. Remember when we called it junior high back then? It was junior
I do
high.
remember that, yeah. Although I went to middle school, it was just after junior high.
Oh, nice. Well, I went when it was still called junior high, and that was the first time I conducted. But then in high school, I started to get a few more opportunities, and I started to think, I really like this. I want to do this. So in undergrad, I really tried to pursue as many opportunities as I could on the podium. So I mean, just like anything else in music, the only way to learn is to do it. And that's actually, I think, one of the hardest things about conducting is, you can go into a practice room with your instrument and it's a solo thing, obviously, where you're getting better. But you have to have an orchestra or at least a group of musicians in order to practice conducting, truly practice it.
Right. I want to go back for a second. Did you say you started conducting when you were in junior high?
Well,
how did that happen?
The very first time I conducted, I was in junior high. I was in 8th grade. It was in Ohio. And I was like seriously the class clown, if you can believe that. Can you believe that?
I can believe it. I buy it.
I was the class clown. And so, when there's a substitute in any band, orchestra, or choir class, usually they have no idea how to conduct or how to do anything musically because they're a math person or a gym teacher or something like that. Well, some teacher got up there and was doing a horrible job one day, trying to fill in. And the kids, my classmates, thought it would be fun if I got up there and conducted instead. But what they didn't know is that I kind of took it a little seriously, and I followed my first violin part in the score because I didn't know how to read a score yet, obviously. But I just followed the melody, and I could, conduct a 4 pattern and keep a steady beat, and it actually went pretty well. So when my junior high orchestra teacher, Mrs. Hazlett, got back the next day, she said, "I heard you conducted yesterday, and I heard you were pretty good. So get up on the podium and let me see you."
Wow.
And she let me conduct some more, and I was moving that year from Ohio to Pennsylvania. So at the end of my 8th grade year, she let me conduct a piece on the final concert of the year. That was my first time in 8th grade.
That's a conductor is born story, right? Nobody conducts when they're in 8th grade. That's not a thing, right? It's pretty unusual, I think.
Do you know what I conducted? You want to take a guess?
I'll go with Pachelbel's Canon.
Close. Mahler 9. No, the love theme from St. Elmo's Fire. Do you remember that?
Oh, that's
yeah.
much better.
That was my conducting debut. The love theme from St. Elmo's Fire.
St. Elmo's Fire. Wow.
Yep.
That's the one.
Anyway.
Well, if you told people that that's what they were going to do if they went into conducting, you'd have people knocking down the door.
Exactly. Everyone already wants to be a conductor, right?
Well, yes. But yes, pretty sure.
Especially if they knew that, they'd really want to be a conductor, I think.
So when did TK? By the way, everyone, if you're watching, you can ask Jason a question over in the stories. Please do pipe in with a question, or I gave you the option of a bad conductor joke. TK says, "I don't know jokes with 2 conductors, which would seem appropriate for this chat." Oh, that's nice. Well
played. Well played, TK.
I thought he was going to say, "I don't know any conductor jokes that you could actually repeat on the air," or something like that.
There's some clean conductor jokes.
There are some good clean ones. If you have, we can save your best ones for the end here.
There you go.
So what was the point? So you're teaching high school high school orchestra, conducting high school orchestra. What's the point where you thought, did you ever think to yourself a thing that was in your head during those years? Or was it kind of more of a gradual evolution?
I think you cut out there just for a second, so I missed the very beginning of that question. Can you tell me just the beginning?
Yeah, I was just saying, what's the point while you were a high school conductor? Was there some point where you thought, I want to be conducting professional orchestras, or was it just a natural?
Okay. It kind of happened gradually, actually. I wasn't conducting professionals at all when I had my first high school job in Ohio, but I decided to go back to grad school after teaching. And I went back to the Cleveland Institute of Music for orchestral conducting. And it was after I finished my master's and started working with the youth orchestra in Louisville. That's when I first started doing some guest conducting, first with the Louisville Orchestra and then some other orchestras throughout the country. And the more I did that, the more I loved doing it. And I love teaching too. And I'm still that way. Even though my current position is with a professional orchestra, I still very much love working with young musicians. And I get to conduct all state orchestras and various festivals. And it's always really fun to do that as well. So it just kind of naturally evolved that way. And then I had to make a decision at some point. I quit my teaching position at the Performing Arts High School in Louisville so that I could work with the Louisville Orchestra on a much more regular basis. And then the job in Kansas City opened up and I came here.
Cool. And it must have been kind of fortuitous for you that the Louisville job was kind of like a youth symphony job, and you're an assistant conductor with the Louisville Orchestra, right? So it's a real nice segue.
Actually, just like here in Kansas City, the youth orchestra is a completely separate organization from the orchestra. But
Oh,
of
it is. Oh,
course,
okay. Okay.
yeah. So I actually started with the youth orchestra first, and I did that job the entire time I was in Louisville, and just
Okay.
started working with the Louisville Orchestra the last 3 years that I was there
Oh, I
in the
gotcha.
position.
I had the mistaken conception that you were doing
No,
kind of the
but
same
you
thing.
know, I was still building relationships. I was guest conducting the Louisville Orchestra a lot. I was having the members of the LO come in and coach sectionals for the youth orchestra. So I knew the orchestra well, the musicians well, and so it was great to walk into a position where I already felt very comfortable.
Right. So what's the biggest challenge for you? Because conducting, I mean, conducting is conducting, but conducting high school kids is very different from conducting professional musicians.
Right.
What did you find like for you personally to be like, okay, I really this is going to be something I need to work on or I don't know, overcome.
Well, I think first and foremost, the biggest difference is the sheer number of rehearsals and concerts. Because when
Uh,
you're teaching high school orchestra or conducting a youth orchestra, you're doing a concert once every, month at the most, but once every few months. And when you get to a professional orchestra, especially if you're an assistant or associate conductor, you are conducting, you know, several programs per week, usually all throughout the season. So the biggest learning curve was just learning how to study scores a lot more efficiently. But of course, like you said, the way I don't, it's interesting. I don't conduct very differently. The physical aspect of what I'm doing does not change no matter who I'm
sure,
working with. And I think
sure.
that's one of the cool things about conducting. It's the way that you rehearse, the things you choose to rehearse, of course. When working with young musicians, a lot of times I'm trying to teach them things that'll help them not just in that moment, but also long term. What'll stick with them so that the next time they encounter a similar situation, they'll hopefully remember working on it in the piece that we're on at the moment. But with professional musicians, of course, 99.9% of what you hear in rehearsal is perfect or darn near perfect.
Yeah,
So
totally.
it's especially from the clarinet and bass clarinet section.
That's right. That's right.
And so what you're doing more there, of course, is trying to rehearse the big picture or the musical concepts of what you're trying to accomplish. And sometimes, if it's a pops concert or something like that and everyone's sight reading the charts, then you might need to go back and fix a few small things. But I think, the other thing that's similar is the way you address the orchestra. I don't think it matters if you're working with young musicians or professionals. I always try to treat every group I'm working with a lot of respect and admiration and a feeling of we're all making music together, that this is a collaborative thing. And, in the old days, maybe it worked for people like Toscanini or George Sell to put down the iron fist and yell and, demand their way. But long gone are those days, and I'm glad because I don't, that's not my personality anyway. I enjoy.
Right. You probably would not be able to pull that off, I wouldn't think.
I could. There were times when I was conducting the youth orchestra or in high school where I got a little frustrated sometimes.
Yeah.
Emotions.
Because I've seen conductors who clearly like they studied with some really old school guy and
Yeah,
they'll decide one day this is the day that I'm going to be really mean and
yeah,
bring the hammer and it never works because it seems like
no,
they're just trying to recreate this thing that somebody did to them and it doesn't.
right. Well, and first and foremost, you have to be you.
Yeah.
I mean, on the podium, I think one reason why some people don't like conductors is that it's so easy when you're up there because you are, in some ways, you're not acting, of course, but you are in some ways presenting yourself in a very confident, assured way. Even when you're nervous about something, you have to be 100% on top of your ball game and really focused and really confident. And so I do think there are times where some conductors, come across as, are they really being genuine? Or that seems a little fake, or they're
Mhm.
putting on an act or something like that. So, and musicians see right through that. So actually, I think the best word of advice I could give to any aspiring conductor out there is to definitely always be yourself. Be prepared, be professional, but definitely be yourself as well.
That is very good advice. Yeah, I think so. And I have to say too, conducting is so difficult. Having tried it a little bit in the
Yeah.
past, like being the person who's in charge with like this orchestra of professional musicians, all of whom know way more about their instrument than you do, probably.
Yep.
And you're supposed to be the one, telling them how to play it all, and then you have to know the score inside and out, and you have to bring artistry and emotion, but also clarity, and you have to control your body. I mean, it's just such a lot of stuff. I'm always impressed with people that can do it well, such as yourself.
Thank you, John. It is a lot of work, and actually, I need to see you conduct sometime because you told me before that you conduct. Maybe one day I'll leave the podium and let you get up there. And
that's such a terrible idea. I'm only going to conduct from now on in like a comic role, like only if I get to be just absurd about it, because I'd be terrified to do it in any serious way.
It is a lot, though. You really are processing a lot of stuff. Especially when you're first starting out, there's a lot of sound coming at you from all directions, and you're worried about intonation and balance and ensemble and the musical phrasing, and there's so many things you're thinking about all at once. I think one of the best words of advice that one of my great teachers, Carl Topolo at CIM, always gave me was sometimes it's best to close your eyes and really focus on what you're hearing. So there are times where you can easily be distracted by one sense. And so sometimes when you cut off that one sense, like looking at things, your ears get better. It's why when I'm listening to auditions, if there's not a screen, back when I was doing youth orchestra auditions or something like that, many times I would look down at the table or close my eyes so that my ears were even more perceptive. But the other thing is putting yourself, I'm not anywhere near as good on any of the instruments as anyone in the orchestra is. I am a decent violinist, but I don't get to practice much anymore. But the biggest thing is to understand what is difficult in a particular piece at a particular moment for a certain instrument. And the more I'm able to put myself in the shoes of the musicians I'm working with and understand what they're going through psychologically and how hard or how easy something is for them, that helps me, I think, get the best out of someone. If I can say, John, I know that E flat is extremely low, but if it's possible to be a little bit softer, that'd be great. Wording something that way, where I'm showing you, look, I know that the reason why it's a little loud right now is because it's a ridiculously low note, and you can only play it so softly.
Right.
But just those little things, I think, go a long way. I hope with musicians and understanding their how difficult it is what they do, because it's extremely hard to play in an orchestra.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can never be faulted for trying to understand where somebody else is coming from. So along those lines, conducting is so tricky, and I'll say from my personal experience, it takes a lot of bravery to conduct, I think, on the one hand. I mean, sometimes it takes a lot of, denial, but I do think because it's so difficult, you really have to be able to take a lot of criticism.
Yes.
And sometimes some of it constructive and criticism that you would expect from teachers or critics, and then some of it just, unwarranted feedback from musicians. Well, warranted or unwarranted, but unexpected maybe feedback from musicians.
Sure.
What do you do? Like, you're a pretty positive guy, generally speaking, and I sense that you're actually a pretty confident guy. Like, how do you deal with criticism, especially when it kind of hits you in a rough way? How do you cope with that?
Well, I think, first of all, you have to have thick skin to be a conductor, and you can't really worry too much about what people think about you, as far as, like, do they like me or do they not like me? And, actually, in many ways, being a conductor, my years of being a teacher served me well in two ways, thinking along these lines. Because teachers are the same way. In order to be an effective teacher or an effective leader of any kind, a politician, no matter what it is, you have to have a thick skin, and you have to realize that no matter what you do, there's always going to be some people that don't agree with you or don't like what you're doing. I mean, that's just being a leader in any sense. But the other thing that I learned, and I will say that the Kansas City Symphony, of every orchestra I've worked with, and this is why I love being here more than anything, is a group of people that really not only work hard and bring 100% all the time, they are just really wonderful people. We are so blessed to work with such great colleagues. And so it is extremely rare that someone says something to me that's even the least bit, tense or disrespectful or anything like that. I mean, I think because I always try to treat people with respect, I feel like people give me the same respect, and I really appreciate that. But the other thing that I learned from being a teacher is if someone has a tense moment with you in front of everyone, to let it go. Just don't escalate in conflict, because it's only going to get worse. And then so if that ever happens in rehearsal, I always find that person right after rehearsal and we talk, and immediately it's solved and there's never an issue, So it's all about being any kind of an effective leader. Great communication, treat people well, and don't engage in some kind of unnecessary conflict in front of everyone else. That's not why we're all there,
Right. And how do you not take negative things to heart? Not that you're like getting all kinds of negative feedback, but surely you've experienced that before, and I guess, yeah, I don't know.
There are times, I mean, believe me, it's not like it's all sunshine and roses and you're always like, oh, I'm great and I'm doing great and this sounds great. I mean, there are times where I leave the stage and I think, God, I really should have done this instead, or man, I really screwed this moment up and I left this person hanging. I mean, those things happen, but that's part of performing. Just like Baker Mayfield, my favorite quarterback, the Cleveland Browns.
I was wondering if we were going to segue into the Browns.
And throws more interceptions than touchdowns sometimes. No, I mean, we're all human. No one's perfect. And I think as I've done this more and more, my own confidence and my own sense of I'm not going to be perfect has really drastically improved. And that's helped my overall just approach to conducting in general.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, you mentioned the Browns. I think I had another question.
Oh, boy.
Oh. You already gave advice to aspiring conductors, so that's good.
Okay.
Do you have anything else besides be yourself? I honestly think that's maybe the best advice you can give, because there's nothing that will keep a conductor from getting anywhere with an orchestra if they sense that he or she is just faking everything, or pretending to be great, or pretending to be serious, or whatever. Like, you have to find a way to be yourself on the podium. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think that's a big one. Number one, be genuine. Number two, be overly prepared. Mm-hmm. There is no substitute for preparation for any musician, but when you are a conductor and you are unprepared, you are making life difficult for everyone. Mm-hmm. You have 80 to 100 people that are counting on you to know the score better than all of them, because that's your job as a conductor. Your musicians come and they are able to play their parts perfectly, and if it's a standard piece of rep, they know how it all fits together. But there are many things that I conduct, either on a pops concert or sometimes a family concert, if there's something that we haven't done for a long time, or we've never done it and it's a brand new educational piece of some sort. It is my job to put it all together. So if I don't know that score inside and out, there's no way we're going to succeed. So be genuine, be prepared, treat other people with kindness and respect, and try to put yourself in their shoes. Like I said, I always try to do that. There's no me in orchestra, and there's no I in orchestra. So I always try to say things like, instead of saying, John, you're flat on that note, I'll say, John, do you think we can try to bring the pitch up on that? No,
and I'll be like, what are you saying? I'm flat?
Yes, I am. No, I mean, perhaps that wasn't the best example, but sometimes, let's put it this way. If let's say that something's not together, perfectly together, I might say, instead of saying, um, flutes, you're dragging. I might say, flutes, it sounds like from here that we're a little bit behind. Can you anticipate and be, just little ways you word things psychologically really make people feel like, it's a collaborative effort, because that's what music making is, no matter if you're a conductor or not. It doesn't matter.
TK said in the comments that you are the king of preparation.
Yay.
The king.
The king. Thanks, TK.
So let's see. I don't want to go too long. So I got 3 trivia questions for you. They're kind of ridiculous.
Oh boy.
But I just want to go for it here.
All right.
All right. This is trivia about conductors.
Oh boy. Okay.
All right.
All right.
The first one is about a train conductor.
Okay.
Because I steal all my material from Wait, Don't Tell Me. I feel like you're probably not going to get any of these right. I always write these, and then I'm like, oh, nobody can think of this on the spot. But let's give it a shot. So,
I don't know about trains, but I'll try.
I like this question because of this train conductor was born in Missouri, okay?
Okay.
Train conductor from Missouri, famously sacrificed his life keeping one hand on the brake and one on the whistle to warn people because the train was coming and there was going to be a crash.
No.
He died in a train crash. He's kind of a folk hero train conductor.
All right. The only person I know that's a folklore hero associated with trains, and I only know this because Aaron Copland wrote a piece about him, is John Henry. Is it John Henry?
Oh, it's not John Henry. Oh, but it's a pretty close answer.
Okay. I'm not even positive. I don't even know what his role was, but I know he was associated with
John Henry was like digging the tunnel, I think. Like he was working on the railroad and like digging the tunnel faster than the machine that was digging.
Oh wow, okay.
Something like that.
I'm over one.
Casey Jones is the famous.
Casey, I was thinking the word Casey for some reason.
Casey Jones. Yeah, okay. That's one of those that you can't come up with, but then when somebody says, you're like, oh yeah, right.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
0 for 1.
0 for 1. Next question. There's only 3. Question number 2. What is the best electrical conductor? Multiple choice.
Oh, good.
Choice. Okay. A, aluminum. B, platinum. C, gold. Or D, silver. Best electrical.
I'm going to go with aluminum.
Oh, Maria guessed that too, and that is.
Is it silver?
It is silver.
That was
half a point.
It's always my second guess. If I would just go with my second guess, I'd be nailing this quiz.
And by the way, silver is not the most conductive metal when it tarnishes. So, if you're out there doing electrical experiments, keep that in mind.
I'm learning so much, John.
So much. Oh, hang on. I gotta get my iPad for this.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
so the last question is actually about real conductors. What's that?
While you get your iPad, we're going to say hello to my dog, Puccini.
Oh, hello, Puccini.
Everyone say hi to Puccini.
Oh, so sweet. Hello.
All right.
More dog time. All right, third question.
3.
Real conductor question. Which real conductor took the microphone before a concert featuring Glenn Gould playing a Brahms piano concerto and made a disclaimer, quote-unquote disclaimer?
I know this one.
Yeah.
This is great Leonard Bernstein.
Great Leonard Bernstein. Do you remember what he said?
I know the basic premise of it. So they were playing Brahms piano concerto number 1 or 2. I don't remember which.
D minor, it says here.
D minor, okay. So Glenn Gould was playing the Brahms D minor piano concerto, and he let Bernstein know, even before the rehearsal started, that he had a new epiphany of a new interpretation of this great piece.
Yes.
And he supposedly took the tempos quite slowly,
right,
in 2 movements in particular. And Bernstein and Gould kind of disagreed throughout rehearsals, and it got a little tense, but never got too bad, but got a little tense. And Bernstein felt so compelled to tell the audience that this is not my interpretation of the Brahms D minor piano concerto, but this is Mr. Gould's, and I have a lot of respect for him, and therefore we're going to perform this. And there's different stories about whether Gould was ticked off backstage and almost walked out, or if he thought it was great.
Right. Bernstein claims that he showed Gould what he was going to say, and Gould was like, great, no problem, absolutely.
Okay.
But I just want to read what he says because it's so amazing.
Yeah.
So Bernstein walks out on stage before the performance of this concerto. You are about to hear a rather, shall we say, unorthodox performance of the Brahms D minor concerto, a performance distinctly different from any I've ever heard or even dreamt of, for that matter.
That's so Bernstein.
It's amazing. It goes on, and he says the reason we're doing it is because Gould is Gould, and he deserves to be listened to, basically.
But John, I mean, Bernstein had, I mean, you want to talk about someone that was good at communicating and knew how to say exactly the right thing and knew how to make musicians feel like this was a collaborative thing. The one thing I've always, I would have loved to have worked with him, either as an instrumentalist or as a conductor, either way, because from some of my older friends who have worked with him, they said the biggest thing about Bernstein is that he was always able to get 110% out of everyone, that you felt like that you wanted to give more and more and more. And that's a great quality for a conductor.
That is a great quality. That's cool. Yeah. I love the quote so much.
Yeah.
All right. I don't see any amazing questions. Anybody got a question for Jason? You can type it in here. Otherwise, I'll say thank you so much for joining us here.
Of course, it was my pleasure, John. Thank you. I enjoyed talking with you.
Same here. We should have a little interview like every week.
Yeah, we should. I learned a lot about trains, and I learned a lot about electricity.
That's right.
And, oh, someone has a question here.
They do. Can you see it?
Yep. Left-handed conductors who have the baton in their left hand. Are there different baton lengths? Does the baton choose the conductor like a wand in every Good questions there. Okay, so first of all, I have seen some left-handed conductors, but just like violinists, it is my opinion that everyone should hold the baton in their right hand, just like a violinist should hold the instrument in their left hand and the bow in their right hand. When musicians get used to seeing a baton in the right hand, I really do think it makes a big difference. So even if you're left-handed, we use both of our hands so much when we conduct, I really do think the baton should be in the right hand. That's just my opinion though. There are different baton lengths. The baton is an extension of your arm. So typically you want to put the end of the baton, the grip part, right inside your elbow, and it should go to about the first or second knuckle of your middle finger. That's how long your baton should be. If you have a really long arm, you're going to have a long baton. If you have a short arm, you're going to have a shorter baton. It should just look like a natural extension of your arm. Does the baton choose the conductor like a wand in Harry Potter? Absolutely, yes.
Wow, did not know that.
I go to baton shops. I walk in, magic starts happening, things start flying off the shelf, and baton, no.
Is it like the singing sword? It just like starts humming and flies over to you?
Right, indeed. No, you do choose your own baton, and there are many people that make them. I have some of my favorites that I go to in the country that I get about the same type. The grip could be made out of different kinds of wood. It can be made out of cork. It just depends on how light you want the baton to be, or where you want the balance point to be, etc. We're getting super nerdy.
It's good, pretty nerdy. Do you ever conduct without a baton?
I do. If it's something that's really lyrical and beautiful, and maybe it's just the strings, I'll sometimes conduct without a baton. But I prefer to conduct with it. And I think most musicians, especially people that sit way on in the back, on the sides, or way in the back, up in the percussion or brass section, I think they prefer to see a baton usually.
Probably. I will say though, I've worked with conductors who always use a baton, and then one day they put it down for some reason and they conduct with their hands, and you suddenly go, oh my gosh, this is so good. you know, because they're freed of the tyranny of the stick, I think, maybe. It's not everyone, but like I've seen that before where I'm like, wow, I wish they did that more.
When we return to full rehearsals, I'm going to try that.
Try it out, yeah. And then you can blame me.
Maybe you shouldn't do it, Jason. You should keep the baton.
Exactly. TK asked, what's your favorite non-traditional solo instrument and why is it the bass clarinet? That's very amusing, TK.
Actually, TK, and I'm not just saying this because you're asking the question, it is definitely the contrabassoon. Because the contrabassoon is literally like the most gorgeous sound in the orchestra, especially in like Brahms symphonies or really anything written in the Romantic era. There are some really, and bass clarinet. I mean, those two instruments, when used as the foundation of the entire woodwind section, or, you know, especially when they're not playing with the basses or the tuba, and it's like a woodwind chorale moment or something like that, I just think it's the most gorgeous sound. You get that reedy, especially when TK plays it.
That's right. You get that reedy organ sound, kind of. It's like a different vibe. Kind of cool.
It's gorgeous.
Excellent.
Let's do a concerto. All right, let's do it.
Here we go.
Are there contrabassoon concertos? I've never heard a contrabassoon concerto, but there should be.
That would be interesting.
All right. I'm going to have to talk with TK and see.
We'll work it out. Or a double concerto for contrabassoon and bass clarinet. That'd be.
There you go.
That'd be something.
Nice. That'd be even better. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Jason, for joining us.
Thank you, John.
We'll see you soon.
Sounds good. It was a lot of fun.
All right. Same here. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.